Hello, Mech Warriors. Are you considering building a heavy missile boat like an LRM boat? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the clan and the interspear ones. And if you've seen my previous videos, you know that there's pretty distinct differences between the two styles between clan and interspear. Those are all we have to work with. So with interspear mechs, they have an indirect fire and they have a direct fire. Direct fire is basically if you can see it, you're shooting at it probably. And so you have a lot faster rate of speed, just like clans do with direct fire. And the indirect fire is where they go up and over targets. Now, the benefit that interspears have is that they have a better indirect fire going up and over the top of targets. If you've ever seen them flying through the air, you can always tell an interspear because they're all in a group and they seem to fly a lot higher than the clan mechs do. And I did a video talking about that. So the other advantage that interspears have is that they fire all the missiles simultaneously, and that means that all of them are reaching their target simultaneously. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be hitting the mech. You might be missing some of the missiles on target, but that all depends on if you have Artemis or not. And Artemis doesn't guarantee also that it's going to make sure that every single missile hits the mech. And like a shotgun blast at a range, it's not going to give you a tight-knit circle. It is going to help a little bit with Artemis and your missile feature that reduces the spread, but it's still going to spread out across the mech. And that's the same with clan mechs as well. So the benefits of them is all the missiles fire simultaneously, and all of them are landing simultaneously. Now, and then of course the indirect fire. The disadvantages. The disadvantages are they produce a lot more heat. It's probably about the same amount of heat, depending on the mech, obviously, and their quirks. But it's about the same amount of heat, but what the difference is you're getting all the heat instantly because all the missiles are firing simultaneously. The other disadvantage is if you were to take say an LRM 20 on an interspear mech, they weigh 10 tons. And that's without Artemis. On a clan mech, they weigh 5 tons. So it theoretically looks like on paper that it's the same amount of damage, but it weighs twice as much. God, you just want to go right to the clan mech because the weapons weigh less. Well, there's disadvantages with the clan mechs as well. On the clan mechs don't fire the missiles all at once, which means the heat is spread out a little bit. And as you can see, that has a little bit of an advantage. So you get a cyclet rate, kind of like the way a machine gun works as they're firing. Now, the other side of the coin is that they come in also in a stream, and so they're not all hitting at once. So the advantage of that is that you can spread out the heat, and you have a little bit better heat management on a clan mech. But the disadvantage of it is that you have to deal with the fact that not all the missiles are coming in at the same time, so therein lies kind of a problem where you could lose the amount of damage you might be able to possibly do. So I would tell you that a LRM 10 on an interspear mech is probably equal to an LRM 15 on a clan mech. And that's whether it's Artemis or not. So as an example, I would say an LRM 10 Artemis on an interspear mech is easily equal to a single LRM 15 with or without Artemis on a clan. So the options that I'm going to show you, and I've already got my favorite picked, but they're really neck and neck. And a lot of other mechs don't even make the grade in my book. So the first one we have is the Novacat B. And the second to that is the Catapult C4. They both have a similar weapons system set up, and they both do exceptionally well. And which mech has done the most damage? Well, that's easy. It's the Novacat. I had a match in faction play where it was just that first mech of the 4 mechs that I brought with me, and I did 2,518 damage. I think the most I've done in a catapult was right around 1230, But in non-faction play, the most I ever did was easy. It was 1,444. And yes, these videos are up with all the description information. So let's take a look at the NovaCat. The NovaCat is a clan mech that has omnipods. And I'll tell you what, I tried moving the omnipods around and trying different things, and I always came back to this setup. This is one of the only clan mechs that has omnipods that I don't mess with. I really just love this overall setup. It just works. If I was going to build a mech, this is what I would build. I wouldn't have minded having the missiles maybe on the torsos, but otherwise this works really well. And yes, I have had the Mad Dog, and the Mad Dog has really terrible hitboxes, and you just can't put a lot of weapon on there for the amount of mech that there is. But this, you can easily do 6 LRM-15s and have plenty of ammo. And what do I mean by plenty of ammo? I think my record was 3,900 missiles, 3,900 and some change. And I eventually scaled it back to this build. Now, what gives this mech such an advantage? Well, part of it is the arms aren't slung way down. If you have a Night Gyre, you'll see that the weapons are actually in the same spots as the Night Gyre. And that kind of makes sense, I think, because I think they're built by the same manufacturer. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's pretty close to accurate. They look pretty similar too. The head, the arms, especially the legs. But yeah, so the weapons are high enough up that they actually perform rather well. So on this mech, you get 2 defensive weapon spots, or you can use these as tag. And I love it when I see somebody that has a NovaCat with tag, because they usually don't have a laser, which means they don't usually typically have defensive weapons. They load up on LRMs, and the LRMs don't do well in short range, as you can see here. So these weigh 3.5 tons, and you get, in this build, 5 of them. Now, if you're going to build this, make sure you put the narc in the bottom spot. And by doing that, the last spot on the arm, whichever arm you go with, you end up putting the narc on top. And by doing that, you have a better chance of that IC thing. So I came up with this build here, and what I've got is, I've got a 1/2 ton of ammo for the narc. And I should stipulate this. The narc does not fly at the same speed as the LRMs do. And it also doesn't have indirect fire. It has direct fire. So it works just like an SRM or a bullet or a standard ballistic weapon, or SRM for that matter. It's going to fire out. You're going to be able to see it flying through the air. That's how slow these things are. The projectile speed is 500, and I've got skills and quirks on this that makes this a little bit faster. But ultimately, it's 500. So that's something that you have to deal with there. But the big advantage is that you're going to be able to lock that target. And if you're dealing with somebody that's got, say, stealth armor or ECM, you're going to make it so everybody else on the battlefield can see them too. So that's part of the reason I run the narc on here. And I've got a couple of different builds where I run it with and without the narc. And I find most often that I do a lot better with the narc than I do without. Now, I don't need a lot of shots, because with the skills, I get a total of 7 shots. Unskilled, you get 6 shots with a 1/2 ton. So I figured out that when I did 1 ton, it really didn't do anything to really benefit me. Now, one of the things I don't like about this mech is it doesn't have an option for a spot on the head where you could put an advanced sensor package. So there's no place to put that, and that's why this is drilled out like that. Even if I wanted to and I had the room to do it, see, there's no place you can put it in there because it knows you can't do anything. So on this build, I figured out that I need this amount of ammo. So what do we got here? We have 11 tons of ammo. We have 4 double heat sinks. And we have an overall firepower of 87 with the lasers included. Lasers are contributing 6 apiece. So you can figure out that we're doing what we should be doing here with 5 LRM-15s. Now, the heat management on this build is 1.35. That sounds really good, but it's not. You got to be careful. I run an override on all my builds and all my matches. Always on. Even on a Gauss build that's never going to get really hot, I still do it. I just like the neon sign. I'm so used to it. If I don't have it on the screen, I feel like there's something wrong. So I just put it up anyways just to get it off my bones. So the speed on this mech is 64.8. And like I said, we're not going to talk about the quirks. Oh, why not? We'll talk about the quirks. So you're getting an energy cooldown of minus 10%, a range of plus 5%, missile heat generation minus 10%, and then base armor structure plus 20, left and right torso plus 15, left and right arms plus 20, and you're also getting a target decay duration of plus 0.5. Now, I'm not going to talk about the skills either way, but I will tell you that this is a really nice kind of a setup, especially if you chain fire these. You do not want to alpha strike these. It's just too much heat. You're going to be able to do it one time, and then if something happens and you forget to fix it, you're going to get it overheat really fast, because this is a lot. Even though you have a heat management of 1.35, it's going to add up really quickly. That's why I run 2 cool shots and a UAV on all of my missile builds. There's a couple exceptions there and there, like 1 or 2 mechs, but for the most part, every one of them has 2 cool shots and a UAV. And the skills are set up about the same, and I'll show the skills at the end. Now, this mech, once again, has a firepower of 87, and there's a reason I'm saying this. This has a firepower of 87 and a heat management of 1.35. Let's look at its inner sphere cousin, aka brother. Now, when you look at this one, this mech is not unsimilar to the other mech, except the big thing about this one is it's quite a bit smaller. These boxes are really big and daunting looking and big from the sides, but this is a smaller mech. You have to think of this in terms of kind of like, almost like it doesn't have arms at all. Now, the arms are these boxes that look like pizza carriers, and this would just be the bomb for a pizza delivery company. And these swing up, that's why you can see these little hinges. And you'll see that they do fire that way as well. These will swing up and fire the missiles. And this also has its energy points here, just under the chin, just like they did on the Clan Novacat. Let's take a look at this guy in the shop. So this has 4 LRM-10s with Artemis. Now, remember what I said earlier? An LRM-10 Artemis on an Intersphere mech is easily matches with a LRM-15 with or without Artemis on a clan mech, because of the way the damage is doing. You're getting more of that target, or more of those weapons on target, before that target has the opportunity to get to cover. So for that, I'm running 6 tons of ammo versus 11 tons of ammo. And I know it seems really strange, but I'm doing as much damage as the clan mech is typically. The one advantage that I have on the clan mech is that the clan mech has extra slots. So it has 6 slots, and I know what you're thinking. Oh, well, you should pick the Catapult A1. Well, I tried doing that, and because it takes up more slots and it also weighs so much more, it's very hard to have the proper amount of ammo for NARC and the NARC weapon itself and all the missiles. So I tried that, and I just didn't have very good success. I just felt like I was sacrificing too much, because you don't have those energy weapons anymore. Because an A1 has 6 missile points and no energy weapons. The C1 has 4 energy points and 2 missile points. And that actually works pretty well as well. You get two energy points, 1 in each one of the torsos and 2 in the chin. This one, in my opinion, is better than the C1. And the reason is because on my C1, I'm running 2 LRM-20s, and they have a cooldown of 4.3 seconds. Now, the LRM-10s have a cooldown of 3.7 seconds. So 3.7 and 4.3. They seem like they're really close numbers, but they're not. And the reason is because you're on the battlefield, everything is happening really quickly. And if you're not able to fire often, you're basically a walking target. People want to stay away from you when you have missiles like this. They either want to do one of two things. They either want to crowd you to try and get inside of that bubble of the minimum distance, or they want to stay in cover and try and keep away from you. So on this one, for defensive weapons, when somebody gets inside that bubble, I have 2 medium X-pulse lasers. Now I really, really wish Clan Mechs had X-pulse weapons, but they don't, unfortunately. In fact, they don't even have anything that's similar. The X-pulse is really a game changer. I know it doesn't do as much damage as standard medium pulse lasers do, but medium pulse lasers have that long cooldown period. You got to wait before you can fire them again. And I started testing these. I actually fell in love with the X-pulse lasers on my Mauler and on this mech, the C4. And even though there's only 2 of these, I found that when I had the X-pulses on there, it gave me that extra edge, being able to continue to do damage to mechs that may have shut down, or simply they were waiting until their missiles cool down before, or their weapons cool down before they did damage to me. So the X-pulses give a much better advantage over that. And that's why this mech actually does really well. If I lose both my arms and I don't have any missiles, I still have 2 medium X-pulse lasers on there. And these do quite a decent amount of damage. Especially the fact that they've got a decent range for a medium pulse. And they have a cooldown of 0.25 seconds unskilled. Is that right? Yeah. So we're going to take a look at the quirks on this one. And the quirks on this guy, energy cooldown, minus 20%. Honestly, I don't think I'm even taking much advantage of that. Let's see here. A little bit, but not by much. Missile heat generation, minus 10%. Range, plus 10%. Missile cooldown, minus 20%. Missile velocity, plus 10%. Laser duration, minus 10%. I don't think that matters there at all. Base armor, you're getting for the left arm, plus 15, right arm, plus 15. Then structure, center torso, plus 8. Left and right torsos, plus 6. Left and right arms, plus 7. And left and right legs, looks like, plus 6. And then you're also getting a sensor range of plus 100. It just basically means you have a really good sensor range. Now, as far as the weapons between the two go, this one has a standard range of 900, and so does the Novacat, as I recall. If we come over to the Novacat, and we go to the lab, also standard 900. So we know that they have the same standard numbers, and then with the quirks, you're going to get everything, all the benefits, and the skills. So this one has a range boost of 225 with the range and the quirks built into it. And that gives this a range of 1125, which is really nice. Now you go over to the Clan Novacat, and this one also has the 225. By the way, most mechs, they usually top out at 1035 for the range on their missiles. So these are really nice advantages that allow you to reach out a little bit further. So it's not quite as good as the catapult, but it's still really good. It's still better than the standard, and the standard is typically 1035 meters with the skill boost, and or most mechs don't have the quirks for range, but the catapult does. So in addition to the catapult firing its weapons differently, having a really good indirect fire, the weapon system on this is, in my opinion, kind of superior to that of the Novacat. But the Novacat just simply has more missiles, more weapon, and you can put more missiles downrange because there's a lot more ability to put weapons downrange. As you can see, I'm maxed out on this at 65 tons. And when you look over to this guy here, this has an additional 5 tons that you can throw on here for additional ammo and or whatever. As you can see, I still have open slots. Now, I can't do anything with them because this is an omnipod mech, which means I can't change any of these things out. I can't change the engine, and I can't change what type of armor. But on the Innersphere mech, you may not have omnipods, but you can change the engine out, and you can choose between armor and you're going with Indo-Steel, and of course you can change between Artemis and non-Artemis. So this one has a firepower of 43, which is not nearly as good as the 87 that you're getting on the Novacat. And it doesn't have a really good heat management. It has a 0.99 heat management. Now let me show you what happens if you just put 2 standard ER medium lasers on here, just like the Novacat does. And you'll see what's going to happen. The heat management is now the same as what the Novacat was. It's 1.35. So the heat management is a little bit better on the Novacat, even though they have the same number here. This one only has 4 missiles and 2 energies. The other one has 2 energies and 6 missiles. So it actually handles the heat better. So if you were to make them identical as far as that regard goes, and you were to go with 2 Artemis or 4 Artemis LRM 10s, and it still has the ER mediums with a lot more ammo. Now the heat management is 1.53, so you can start to see why the Clan Mech just does heat management better than the Innersphere compatriot does. Now, when it comes to the skills tree, these basically are both the same. I'm maxed out on range. I have 8 points into heat generation. I usually have as much velocity as I can get, but they made some changes recently to the battle system, and mechs specifically. So I had to make some changes there. So missile rack, missile spread, high explosive, usually a given. Skeletal density, armor hardening. I didn't go all the way out on the reinforced casing, and you'll see why in a little bit. And I did go with overheat damage. On the Innersphere, I do have full reinforced casing. I have the cool run, heat containment, and of course target decay, which is kind of a mandatory thing. And then I've got the sensor range with the radar deprivation. And in this case, I have NARC on board, so I needed those two to enhance the NARC for the flight time and also the duration that it's on target. And that's why I'm missing points in here. At some point or another, I just simply decided, you know what, I'm going to go with additional heat management to make the heat management just a little bit better. And I'm going to sacrifice a little bit of reinforced casing. And that's what I did. So between these two, let's just go ahead and save that. Between these two mechs, I really have to get the nod to the Novacat. I feel like it does missiles better than the Innersphere catapult does. But as far as the overall, if you're going to get into a brawl, I think brawling the Innersphere mech does it better. It's got better armor, and its weapon system for close quarters works better than the standard ER mediums do. So if I was fighting with these two on the battlefield, I would have to say that the catapult is probably going to, in close quarters, is probably going to whip the ass of the Novacat. I've gone up against the catapult before, and with a C1, a C4, and most often I usually end up as a chalk outline in a straight brawl. I just can't simply fire my weapons fast enough to be able to take advantage of being able to do that damage. But as far as firing missiles downrange, the Nova Cat is absolutely superior. So they both have their pros and their cons. And I hope this information was useful. And if you like my channel, don't forget to like and subscribe. And they're both really, really good choices, and that's why I have them both. And I regularly drive them. And there's something honestly really relaxing about the way the missiles fire on the catapult. I know you thought I was going to say the Nova. No. On the catapult, I don't know what it is. It's relaxing. It's just like some people enjoy the sound of a blender. It's the same thing for me. This one here is more of a serious, I'm going to do some serious numbers build, whereas the catapult is just kind of a more relaxing chill. It's like a convertible to me.